Hello, and welcome back to the Corporate Burnouts Podcast. Hey, Mandy, how are you?
Doing really good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm super excited about our guest today. We are going to be talking to someone that I've known for a really long time. She is an HR professional, but also very much into leadership development. So we have a really great conversation lined up today.
It's going to be amazing. And I'm excited about it too, because when you're thinking about self-development and leadership growth, and you think of the women's leadership series that we always were a part of with our past company, and I had never found anything like that until the last couple of years that was kind of an equivalent. And so we were really excited to partner with the Become Conference, which is run by the Women of Little Black Book, one of the networking groups that I'm part of. But I've been to it the last 2 years, and this will be the third year that I'm participating. It's been several years more that it's been going, but it's a leadership type women's conference that helps anybody who works, basically. Anyone who, if you work for somebody else, if you work for yourself, there's keynotes and there are just incredible women that you look up to. And there's so many breakouts where you learn soft skills and you learn how to do this part of your marketing and you learn how to avoid burnout. I mean, I've seen so many different breakouts in this conference the last couple of years, and I'm excited to partner with them and I'm excited to go again. It lights me up every single year.
Yeah,
And
I'm excited to not just learn vicariously through you, but to get to go as well.
I know.
This is something that you've been really on fire about for the last couple of years, and I'm excited to get to partner with them, but to experience it myself. And I mean, you know me. If I'm not learning, I'm not excited or
Yeah.
engaged. So here we
Yes.
go.
All about the self-development, and that's what this conference and conferences like it are about.
Yeah.
And so again, we're excited to partner with them. We're excited to go. For anybody who's looking for a conference, especially a women's conference in 2026, this one is March 12th and 13th. It is in St. Louis, Missouri, and it's a 1.5 day type situation. And yeah, tickets are
How
on
can they
sale.
sign up for that? Where
Yeah,
do they
so
find that?
we'll put that in the show notes.
Check the notes. Check the
Yes.
notes, people.
Yep, and we'll probably go ahead and put that in our bio on Instagram, so that people can go to that as well. So, I don't know. I'm excited about it. I hope that some of you will join us because it's such a good time with so many great ladies, but also just such a great time to learn
Yeah.
and develop yourself and other women in your business. Bring everyone you know.
Well, hopefully, after today's episode, we will be inspiring you to want to learn and grow and continue your development. And hey, maybe even you get your company to sponsor you on that one. Couldn't hurt. Are you ready to meet Tenice?
Yes. Let's meet her.
I
Bring her in.
am too. All right.
All right. Tenice is here. I'm going to introduce you to everybody. So this is Tenice Wehmeyer. She is the owner of Wehmeyer Leadership Coaching. And Tenice is dedicated to helping leaders and teams grow and deliver in every way they aspire to, thriving in their professional lives and still having the energy they need to flourish personally. As an executive coach and leadership consultant, Tenice helps clients develop a deep self-awareness about their goals and their behaviors and the discipline needed to change and grow, creating positive ripples of influence and impact in every area of their lives. Tenice brings 20 years of human capital experience, from talent management to learning and development, from manager training to executive onboarding, assessments, and promotions within a variety of industries and companies ranging from startup to Fortune 100. She excels in building credibility and trust with her clients to enable candid explorations of aspirations and the behaviors that help or hinder realizing them. Tenice's goal is to help you develop deep self-awareness and an aptitude for leading with both empathy and authority through a battery of assessments, strategic questioning, transparent feedback, and actionable planning. She encourages you to design the leadership journey you want to live and leave as a legacy. Thank you for being here, Tenice. Welcome to the podcast.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mandy. Great. I'm glad to be here today.
Yes.
I have never had the pleasure of working with you. Your bio makes you sound super smart, and that kind of makes me sad now. However, I do have a lot of experience with a Wehmeyer. So I've worked with your husband for a really long time. So I've had the pleasure
Yeah.
of knowing you for, gosh, well, it's been 15 years now.
Yes,
So
at least.
yeah, no, like
Yeah.
15 years and 4 months.
Yeah.
I know
Okay. There you go.
exactly. I know
You've got it
exactly when we
exactly
got to
down.
Evelyn.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well,
Well,
we're
it's great
really
to see you
excited
again.
about having you here. I would love to hear from your perspective. We just got the official bio of what your background is and your expertise, but give us your corporate journey story in your own words of kind of where you've been, what you've been through.
Yeah, absolutely. So I did spend 20 years in corporate environments, so
Hmm.
mostly technology and IT type companies, and working from human resources to leadership development. So spent a long time with McAfee Internet Security Company, where I worked in their HR organization, worked with employees and leaders, and
Hmm.
then also had the opportunity to build a series of leadership development programs. So we built the programs that help leaders as they grow through their career, and it's always learning. There's always opportunity for development and growth, and so spent many years doing that, helping them through different assessments, through different coaching, through different conversations, and then I decided I was going to venture out and do this thing on my own, and so went out and really looked at how can I help more leaders and how
Hmm.
can I help more people really develop the leadership behaviors that will help them grow and leave the legacy that they want to leave. And more importantly than anything, it's all about leaders and really all employees being fully engaged with those who matter most. And you know what? We all matter at work, and that's extremely important. But most of us, I'm not going to say 100%, but most of us have people who are deeply important to us outside of work. So, how do we go
Yeah.
home fully engaged to dedicate and focus our time on our kids, our spouses, our friends, our family, whoever that person might be?
Yeah. I think that's like the question of the entire premise of our podcast, right? Like,
Yeah,
how do we have both?
yeah,
For sure. So,
absolutely.
okay. Well, I love this because you kind of broke it down into two major pieces of your expertise, right? Like
Mhm.
the huge chunk of time that you spent in HR and then the leadership consulting and coaching and development and all of that good stuff. So, I
Yeah,
kind of want to start on the HR side of things. While you were in HR, obviously, I'm sure you were coaching an array of situations and, from the elementary type complaints to the really big stuff, right? But one of the things that I loved about the conversation that you and I had pre-podcast was about your experience in coaching people with difficult bosses or difficulties with their bosses, having never really experienced that for yourself
yeah,
until you did. What can
right.
you tell us about that experience?
Yeah. One thing that's really interesting is when I was in HR, and
Hmm.
one of the primary roles of an HR business partner is employee relations.
Hmm.
And so I spent the majority of my day sitting in a cube with an employee coming either physically by my desk or sending me an email, picking up the phone, anything. And it was, I have a problem. I have a problem, and it could go many different directions. But so many times, the root of that problem then came back to the relationship that they had with their leader or their
Hmm.
boss. And what was that relationship? They weren't having the conversations they needed to have. They didn't feel like they were being treated right. They were disrespected. They weren't doing the tasks that they felt like they were hired to do. I mean, the list could go on and on and on and on. But what wasn't happening is the employees and the managers, the leaders, were not having the conversations they needed to have in order to navigate through whatever that situation was. And you can look at that and you can go, okay, maybe it's the employee should go and say, hey, boss, I need to have a conversation with you. Well, that's hard. Nobody wants to be able
Hmm.
to do that. So what's the leader's responsibility? The leader being able to have the emotional awareness of the situation that's going on with their team to know when someone's struggling. And so I actually took an opportunity and said, you know what? I don't want to be in this HR employee relationship role anymore. I want to go in leadership development. So I want to make the leap to get in front of the problem and help our leaders develop that emotional awareness, develop the skills in order to be effective leaders, in order to minimize the employee relations complaints that you would get in HR. And so that's when I really made the switch, was because of that kind of trying to get ahead of it, be
Get
proactive,
to the root of the problem.
right, rather than reactive. But a little bit on your question is I spent I said I've been in corporate for 20 plus years. I probably spent 18 of those years having great bosses. I
Yeah.
mean, just they helped me develop, they helped me to grow. I got both my bachelor's and my master's after I was an adult in the working environment. And a lot of that was because of the support I had from the leaders that I had. And so it was those last 2 years where I had that boss that was just a wreck. And it was a horrible relationship. And there were a lot of reasons. The organization was going through a merger and acquisition. This individual was under tremendous stress. And I get that. We all get under tremendous stress, but that doesn't excuse the behaviors that we make. And I say we because sometimes it's on both of us when
'cause
when
we
you're in
all
a
do it.
stressful environment. Yeah. Yeah. But it was really that first time when I had kind of that, what I would say, bad boss, that I went, wow, this really, it doesn't feel good. It was
Yeah.
almost like I'd heard people tell me, and I knew people were saying, I don't want to be here. I'm not engaged. I don't love my job. And it's all because of my boss. And I could get that. But until I really felt it, that's when I really said, this is a bigger problem than I even realized. How can I really do something about it on a bigger scale?
Yeah, and really focus in on the leadership first. As you were talking about this, I've never thought about the leader-employee relationship as parent-child, and it's not, but there's so many parallels to it, because
Yes.
you're like, the leader should be taking care of this stuff. The employee shouldn't. And it's like, you don't expect a child to be like, Mom, we need to fix our relationship because I don't like the way that you treat me. I don't like the way that you handle things. Like, the adult, the leader, needs to be the one in charge of that, because the child doesn't have any control, just like the employee doesn't have any control in this situation. So they can't really go and fix a relationship. And everybody has heard of the top down, like everything kind of flows top down. It's like the employee can't fix that. It really has to be fixed from the top, and the leaders can learn how to do this. And then the other thing that you said, because I had a parent that was a screamer, like just everything was an emergency and a nightmare. But and it's like, you are so stressed out. I understand, especially now that I'm adult, like adulting is hard every single day, and to think about all the bills you have to pay. But I don't take it out on a single other human in this world. And those leaders have to figure out how to bring that down. They can't take it out on everybody. I know that we like to give people the benefit of the doubt and say, I mean, they're under so much pressure. I completely understand. But also, just because you're under pressure, you can't punch me in the face. That's not acceptable,
Yeah. Well, it really is. And the one thing I'll say is, if the culture is right, maybe not in the true sense of the parent-child relationship, but if the culture is right in an environment, in an organization, then that employee should have the trust and psychological safety that they can go to their boss and say, can we talk? That did not feel good. I don't understand what's going on. And so that's one of the things that we really work with from both directions. So from a team alignment perspective and a leadership perspective, how can I make sure I create, as a leader, the environment? So, because you know what, there is so much chaos going on. And I
Yeah.
am not going to make an excuse for a leader, but there's a lot of times they may say or do something and they just did it and they have no clue how it
Mhm.
impacted, what that ripple effect was, how they influenced other people. Because it's not always their intention to be a bad boss, it just kind of
No,
happens.
it
Yeah.
And
happens to
so,
everybody. Yeah.
right. So, can you create that environment where even that employee can say, hey, time out? That was not acceptable.
Mhm.
And then they
Yeah.
can have the conversation, and that leader can go, okay, wait, I need to look inside and see
Mhm.
what I need to do a little bit differently.
Mhm. But there's also a difference between the leaders who just won't hear it, right? And
Mhm.
they're the toxic ones who are kind of just not in it for anybody else. But I've had leaders where I've been like, "You just chewed me out." And I
Mhm.
don't think it was about me at all. Like I'll
Right.
take responsibility for what's about me. Like I make mistakes. I'm not a perfect human. But like that came out of nowhere, and they take complete responsibility and they're like, I won't talk to you like that again. I'm sorry, and then they don't. That's somebody who made a mistake. But there
Mhm.
are the toxic bosses who they can't be fixed. They're always going to treat people like this. And we hear about it a lot.
Yeah.
And we hear about with HR in our comment section a lot. We hear people say HR is for the company, it's not for the employees. And I think people feel that way because they almost never get rid of those toxic bosses.
Yeah.
Leadership tends to be a little more insulated. And that is disheartening to people who are like, you are letting my mom just continue to beat me and no one's coming in
Yeah.
and fixing it.
Yeah. Yeah. I will go back to that. There is, and I will not call this individual by name, but there was an individual when I very first started at that corporate one of those corporate roles that it was, I mean, those employees were in my office day after day after day after day.
Mhm.
And we continued as an organization to dismiss this leader's behavior because of the results that he delivered. He
Mhm.
always delivered the results, and it was the
Yeah.
numbers, and and leadership would always make excuses for him. And I can tell you, it's really funny because I left the company before this individual left the company,
Wow.
and a couple of years, I don't even remember exactly what it was, but I got a text from actually someone in talent acquisition, someone in HR. We had this text string that we just stayed connected.
Yeah. Mhm.
And I get this text from one of them that says, Mr. So and so was just fired. And it was like a
Finally. Yeah.
celebration. And
And
we're
it's
like, can you
so
believe?
sad.
And it
Yeah.
really is. It happens because the thing that I understand, businesses are in business to make money. That's
Mhm.
why
Mhm.
we're all here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's how the world works. We're here to make money, but you have to figure out how to do it without, kicking your dog,
Mhm.
your
Yeah.
employees, your
Yeah.
Yes.
whatever. And
Yeah.
you want to create, because and where I go back to it is think about how much money and how productive that particular department could have been if their employees were fully engaged. If
Or
their
if they didn't
employees
keep losing them because I'm sure they
The
exactly.
lost so
turnover. Yeah.
many
Yeah.
employees.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
so so yeah, so it a lot of times it finally catches up with them.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, many times it takes too long. But one thing I will tell you on that note is when I first left corporate, I really thought, you know what, I'm going to go fix all those bad bosses. I'm going to go fix all those toxic
Yeah.
people.
You had that Disneyland
And
dream.
I know it's
Yeah.
kind of, but it actually didn't take me long to go. My business will go broke because those people don't want to be fixed.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so one of the things that I do now is I really go through and I assess the leaders and I work with leaders who want to be better leaders.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because if someone doesn't want to change their behaviors, I'm not going to waste my time and energy trying to make them change. Behavior change is hard enough as it is. It
Yeah.
is critically hard.
It has to be
So
your idea for sure.
Yeah.
absolutely. And so it was, yes, I wanted Disneyland. I wanted to, make
Mhm.
but it's not possible. It's
Yeah.
it's not a dream that can come true. So
Yeah.
I'm going to go where people want to be better leaders and more effective and more thoughtful.
Yeah. Well, you're going to be a lot more fulfilled in your role because you're going to make an impact somewhere. Because to your point, you're not going to fix people who don't want to be fixed.
Mhm. I I think that is the good thing about people who decide to go out on their own, because when you work for a corporation, your clients, right? So your clients were all the leaders and employees at those companies. We also in corporate had clients. They were the stores and the people, the marketers that worked in them, and we couldn't decide. We could give them all the coaching, but we couldn't make them do any of the things. And it is really freeing to now pick our clients based on who actually wants our help. It really is.
Yeah.
It's so fulfilling to just work with people who actually want to do marketing, because
Right.
some of the people that we were given to work with, they were like, we don't want to do any of this. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, those people are saying that you need to be doing
That you
this.
have to.
Yeah. And they're like, we're probably not going to do that. And I'm like, well, I'm still going to tell you how to do that. And they're like, I'm probably still not going to do that. So it does make a difference. Your percentage of people who you help goes up tremendously when you work with people who want what you're
Yes.
giving.
Yes.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. I'm curious, Tenice, going from, coaching employees in these situations and then having that experience on your own where you're like, oh, I really get it now. It's really hard to work for a difficult person. What advice did you have for those employees that were having difficult conversations that you were then able to put into place in your own experience? And did it work? Did you
Yeah.
learn some of the, those lessons from real life experience going, well, I've been telling people to do this for years, but then I tried it and it didn't do anything? Or were you like, oh, great, my advice really landed and this was helpful?
Yeah. I think there are really two things. And one is you can only control your reaction. You can only control your reaction,
Yep.
how you respond. And a lot of times, depending on the situation, sometimes you have to remove yourself. Even if it's not remove yourself in the sense of leaving the organization, but remove yourself from that particular conversation or
Mhm.
whatever's going on. And so I found that to be, important.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the other thing that I really learned, and sometimes this is a hard part about it, is I had to look at where I was responsible for what was going on with the relationship. Because there were some things that I was really pushing that I believed needed to be the way of, the L&D strategy or whatever that we were going through. I was headstrong and dead set that this is what we needed to do. And there were reasons that this leader was going, no, we don't need to do that.
Mhm.
And instead of backing off, I leaned in and pushed harder. And it probably made it worse.
Strains the relationship
So
further.
Exactly. But rather than either one of us saying, let's really have a productive conversation about what you're looking for and what I'm trying to solve, because I was trying to solve the problem that I thought she had,
Yeah.
but she didn't like my solution. And really to come to find out, it was because I was not solving the problem that she really wanted me to. But it was because we weren't having the conversation we needed to have in
Yeah.
order for me to really understand what she wanted solved. And so I will go back. There was a lot of that. I mean, I leaned in really hard because I'm
Mhm.
pretty stubborn when it comes to certain things. And I'm like, I know what I'm talking about. She, didn't know what she was talking about.
Yeah,
So
that is
why
for
aren't you
sure.
listening to me? And so it really was stepping back and saying, where do I have the ownership and the accountability to really make sure that I see what part of this strained relationship is also on me?
Yeah, I love that you brought that up because
Yeah.
stepping out of corporate and looking back, and I would say, I don't know, maybe only a couple of episodes have we had so far where we haven't had to go, okay, yes, we were in burnout. Okay, yes, we experienced this, but like how much of this was our fault? Like not setting boundaries or, having a completely different idea in our own mind of what needed to happen than what actually did based on only having part of the information because you're not the leader, you're not the boss in charge of a
Right.
situation. That personal accountability is probably the hardest part in a situation like that where you can see the faults of somebody else. But man, like looking back, I'm like, I made so many more problems for myself than were necessary at all.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So
But it
really
is.
being
Oh,
able in any situation to kind of step back and go, okay, I need to really assess the situation and then maybe get the perspective of others. And when I say others, those that agree with me and those that don't agree with me. So I'm
Yep.
getting both perspectives in order to really go, you know what, I see the big picture here.
Mm.
Yeah.
It is hard though. It's hard to, I always look back and figure out if I could have done things differently because I'm always trying to avoid these kind of situations. But it's really hard because you're like, no, I really think that I was in the right because you are in a situation where you don't respect this person because you don't like how they lead. And now you can convince yourself that what you were doing was right the whole time. Like it does take, it probably for most people takes extra people's opinions to go, well, I see why you did that. You probably should have backed the hell off, you know?
Yeah.
And then you can see it a little bit more clearly.
Perspective changes everything for
Yeah.
sure.
Yes, it does.
Mhm.
Yes, it does.
Well, another big part of your role in, I'm sure, HR and in leadership development is utilizing those assessments to get feedback from the team or from leadership on the team. You know, that kind of goes both ways. I know that you are an expert in the 360 feedback and assessments. What can you tell us about that and how people react to them, and how can you get the most out of getting and giving feedback?
Yeah. Um, That's a big bucket. So let me see if I can kind of, because there's a lot of assessments, from, DISC assessments, which are really on how do we work effectively together? What is my
Yeah.
personality style? What are my emotional intelligence? I mean, there's an assessment for everything. Some I would lean towards, and some I might say I'm not a fan of, but most of them you have the assessment and you get the results and you read it. And whether you admit it or not, you kind of go, "Ooh, how did that answering those questions, like, how did that spit all that stuff out about me that, like, nobody knows that? Only
Yeah,
I
that's
know
my
that, or
closet
whatever."
self. Leave me
Right,
alone.
right. But most of them, at least the reliable and validated assessments, they're pretty accurate, and so those can be really helpful. But specifically in your question around 360 is I've done 360s for a long time. Most of what I did in corporate was an online 360. So it's a 360 that, you send to people and there's a series of questions and they answer the questions based on probably a scale of 1 to 5. And maybe there's a place at the bottom to answer 3 or 4 questions, kind of open-ended questions. And you can get that feedback. You have to be open-minded, listen and process the feedback. And a lot of times the best thing to do is have an external person, even if it's an internal person, another person helping you assess the data. Even if it's just asking you questions. Why do you think your score in this particular area rated this way? What are some examples why you think people, said this in this outcome like this? So really challenging their thinking in a way that helps them see real live examples of what they're doing that caused the feedback to come back the way that it did. One of the things that I often saw in online assessments in corporate is you would have your peers, you would have your boss, and then you would have direct reports a lot of times. And there were many times where the results came back very different from different groups. And so what you really look at and you go, you know what, my peers and I have a great relationship. I have not a great relationship with my team or with my boss. I mean, whoever it goes.
Yeah.
And so you really look at that and you go, what are my behaviors and how are they different with this different audience? And what do I need to do to be more effective with that audience? And so there's just some things that you can do to really look at it. But it's not an assessment or feedback that you can look at once and go, okay, I'm good. You have to really dig deep into the results, compare the results to maybe your performance reviews or other just feedback conversations. Go back and ask people. One of the things that you have to do when you're getting online feedback is you really want to get what we call balanced feedback. And so you may go, okay, I'm going to ask these 3 people because I work with them all the time and we have a great relationship. Okay, who are 2 more people that you're always struggling with, that you always seem
Get
to kind of
theirs.
have that tension, get their feedback and really actually tell them, I really want, it's anonymous.
Mhm.
And it is anonymous 90% of the
Yeah.
time. It really is anonymous. It's a big bucket that we could get into. And what I'll say, I'll put my HR hat on for a minute
Mhm.
and talk about that anonymous. You know what? If all I had to do was try to dig deep and find out who said what, I don't have anything else to do. I don't have the time or the energy to figure out who said what. You know,
Yeah.
that's really that's kind of a contentious topic as well.
Mhm.
But really getting that balanced feedback is important. What I do, and I'm going to jump to now, when
Uh-huh.
I do leadership consulting and coaching, I do a lot of both insights interviews and what I call live 360 interviews.
Okay.
And the reason I do them that they're much more laborious, they take a lot more time, conversations with the stakeholders rather than it being, and yes, that makes it not anonymous to me
Mhm.
because
Right.
I'm having the conversations, but that's part of my contract with my
Yep.
client is, and each person who gives me feedback, part of the contract is this is a confidential conversation.
Mhm.
And so we have those conversations because then I'm able to say, give me an example of why you rate them that way. Give me an example. Tell me why tell me why. I mean, something simple, communication. Okay,
Mhm.
you rated their communication as poor. Why? Give me some examples of why. Because what that allows me to do is collect the data and be able to really analyze the data in a way that I can go back to my client and say, here are some examples
Mhm.
of why you were rated this way. It helps with the growth because they're really giving the real live examples.
Mhm.
But one of the things I mentioned a few minutes ago was ask, invite people, tell them you really want their feedback, but then at the end, thank them for giving the feedback, whether they gave it or not. So that's one of those things you're like, I don't know if you answered the survey. I don't know if you talked
But
to
thank
Tenice.
you.
I don't know if you gave it, but thank you for being willing to. Thank you for
Mhm.
giving the feedback. And here are the 3 things I'm working on based on the feedback I got. I invite you to help me develop in these
Hold
areas.
me accountable. Yeah.
Mhm.
Hold me accountable, call me out. That doesn't mean call me out in the middle of a meeting when I
Yeah.
interrupted somebody,
Mhm.
maybe. You could maybe even just give me a look or we could have a signal,
Yeah.
that
Mhm.
that's a behavior you're trying to change.
Yeah.
And then really, have that private conversation, but
Mhm.
invite them to hold you accountable.
Well, this
And
really
that's
goes
really what
back.
it developed.
Yeah, this really goes back to what you were saying earlier about working with leaders who want to grow.
Mhm.
Like, if
Mhm.
you are doing a 360 review and you are not receptive to that feedback, it's all really pointless. But in my experience, those were optional. Like, hey, we're doing
Yeah.
this, whether you like it or not. What is your experience with leaders who are in that situation, or even, I say leaders from any level who are in that situation that they're getting feedback from an assessment that they're not really receptive to, and they're, maybe a little bit more defensive about it or dismissive because they think they know where it came from and why. Like, how do you work with somebody to really get them to, like, kind of take the defensive hat off and take a step back, look in the mirror and see what they can actually fix rather than just looking at the cattiness of things that can happen in an office and go, "Oh, well, I know why she said that." Like, and I know
Right.
that that was her.
Yeah. Well, and that's where really having an external coach a lot of times can really help
Yeah.
because I'm going to ask, I'm going to push. Why are you not wanting this?
Mhm.
What is behind it? And one of the, really kind of core competencies of coaching is asking powerful questions. And so really digging into the why behind it. Why are you defensive? What
Mhm.
is getting in your way? How is this making you feel? What is this triggering? That, why do you think someone would have said this? Why are you dismissing it? Can
Mhm.
you pretend that this is true? How would you respond?
That is powerful.
Mhm.
Just
And it's
pretend like
probably,
it's
yeah. And that's probably one of the, I probably ask every client I'm working with, what if this was true? How would you respond? How does it make you feel if this was true? How does it feel if someone says or does this to you?
Because the reality is you're probably defensive because that feeling of if it was true is probably
Yeah.
what you're already feeling. And that's why you're being defensive, because you know it's true. Man.
Yeah, this is tough.
It
These
is.
kind of assessments are not ones like the disc that you fill out yourself, right? This is what other people
Mhm.
think of you. And as a leader, it needs to happen, right? It needs to happen because you have the power to ruin someone's day every single day. You have the power to make them want to quit the job that supports their family. You
Mhm.
know, like these people are with you at least 8 hours every single day, and you need to be handling this right. But while you're sitting there talking about it, I'm going, most people who make their way up the ladder are your high achievers. Okay. And
Mhm.
I believe that there is a big difference between a high achiever and someone with a good work ethic. I know that my high achieving was just trying to get some kind of validation that I didn't get, and it's all based on my own freaking trauma. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like so
Yeah.
so it's like I brought trauma into this role, and then I led people, and now that's not going well. You know what I mean? Like that's just and I'm not saying that every leader and everyone who gets to the top in the C-suites and everything is filled with trauma, but I'm not saying that they're not, you know? Like
Life
it
Everybody
takes
is
a
has
special
drama
trauma.
of
person to
some
get
kind.
yeah,
Everybody has some kind of drama.
they do. Yeah, but it was while you were saying all that, I'm like, those people who get defensive, it's because they're not willing to work on their trauma yet that makes them react these ways. There
Mhm.
are the one-off situations where you got promoted over this person and now you lead them and they're jealous of you and they're going to make up shit in your 360. Those are outliers, right? Everything else, why would they lie? Because these
Yeah.
360s aren't getting people fired, like it's just to
Mhm.
work on. So it's like they're not lying. They're telling you how they're actually feeling based on your leadership, and we need to work on it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Two
It's that
things that you
simple.
made me think about from that is one is I did a lot, especially in corporate, and some of the people that I coach now is talent succession and progression. And so you mentioned, people get promoted because they're high achievers, high performers, and that
Mhm.
is absolutely true. That doesn't mean they're going to be a great leader. It actually doesn't
Mhm.
mean they even want to be a leader.
Right.
So
Yeah.
one of the questions and one of the things I do now, and we actually, when I was in corporate, we designed a program that was called Pre-Lead. And it
Mm.
was for high potential individuals that were high achievers, delivering the results that they needed to deliver. And they went through a pre-lead program that said, this is what leadership is all about. This is what you will be signing up for in this particular, if you want to be promoted, this is
Mhm.
what you're signing up for. And it's not
Mhm.
hard. And it's not, and unfortunately, especially in most corporate roles today, it doesn't mean that all of your daily to-do task in whatever your technical part of your role was goes away.
No.
You're still doing a lot of that. And now you have all these people that you
Mhm.
need to lead. Is that
Mhm.
something that you even want to do? And so
Yeah.
how do we make sure that we're promoting and selecting individuals, one, that want to, and then two, have the aptitude or interest in being developed to be a leader?
A
Yeah.
good one. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very interesting because I interviewed for a position that would have been leading, 5 to 8 people, and I didn't get that job, and I was like, "Thank God, I actually didn't wanna do that," but it was the
Yeah.
next step. So,
Yeah.
because I wanted to be promoted and I wanted to, but, like, whenever I look back on it, obviously I own a business now and I lead 2 people, but it's very different
Yeah.
than in a corporate structure doing that because there's just the I get to
Yeah.
make all the decisions on how things run here. It's
Yeah,
very
because
different.
you are the top.
Yes, but I didn't want that. But nobody asked me if I wanted that, like
Mhm.
I just I considered an extension of what I was doing.
Well, you were
And it
hungry
would
for
have,
more, and that's
yes.
the only
Hmm.
more that there was.
Hmm.
So I think we were
Yeah.
all kind of like, I don't want to say brainwashed, but
Hmm.
like a little bit, it was like, this is the next rung on the ladder. So if I want more, this is what there is to want. You don't
Yeah, it's
even
the
stop
only
and
step.
consider what it will actually take out of you
Hmm.
or, take from you to be able to fulfill that role. And do I even want to do that?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I spent years wanting that, working towards it, interviewing for it, not getting it, only to come out the other side and go, thank God, just like you. Like,
Hmm.
that would have actually given me more of the parts that I really didn't want in the current role that I was
Yeah.
in. So, why am I trying so hard for something that I'm not really cut out for?
Hmm.
Yeah. One of the things that this brings up that we've done, and I've actually just had a conversation last week with one of my HR clients. So
Hmm.
my leaders aren't my only clients. Sometimes it's HR as well.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But we had a conversation on job progression. And so having a structure in place that is progression within an organization that doesn't necessarily mean leadership.
Hmm.
And not all companies are structured to where they can do that. A lot of those that I spent my corporate career in, like in these technical roles,
Hmm.
people are very smart technologists. They're engineers, but they're not cut out to be people leaders. They don't want to be people leaders, but shouldn't we allow them to grow and be promoted
Yes.
and
Hmm.
have advancements?
Yeah.
And so there is a process that I've worked with HR leaders. And how do we make sure you have that career track and that career progression for those that are not just people managers, that
Yeah.
those are technical leaders? And I mean, it's just a different way to look at it. And it's all about engaging your people. How do I fulfill the desires and the energy that the people that work for me have? What do they want? What's going to keep them here?
Yeah.
And that's what you
And
want to do.
we got a lot of that in corporate, like, let's give you more. It just didn't come with a raise. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
It
yeah.
was more work, more
Yeah, but
responsibility.
we did get good experience, and it allowed me to start this. And now, Mandy works for my company, but she has the opportunity to make more money, but it's also like I don't think she ever wants to be leading people, and I'm not even sure our structure will ever be that,
Like,
of
right. It's like
anyone
if I
leading
have to,
anybody else.
fine, but that's not like
Yes,
a desire of my heart
but
anymore.
instead we make sure, like, we got into podcasts, and now we develop people's podcasts and edit them and do all the things for them, and we're getting into SEO. And so, like, she's getting to learn and grow, and with that make
Yeah.
more money, the
Mhm.
opportunity for more money. And I hope that that is, it doesn't feel like the dead end job that when you go maybe work for a small business, or you are in a corporate situation where you don't want to lead people. Like,
Yeah.
I think that that's huge if these corporations can find ways to, but it has to come with, like, I don't care about a job title. I never have, but money is, if I'm putting in more effort,
Yeah.
or learning new skills, like, I think money is important, so I love that there could be a track for that.
Well, and one of the things that I've done a lot from more of a career coaching perspective is coaching individuals to potentially take a sidestep. So, and using Mandy as an example, even in a large corporation, you're
Mhm.
doing this PR work, you're doing this marketing work. How about you come over here and run? I mean, it could even be as an employed company run their podcast. And
Mhm.
so you're getting the different experience that is engaging you, and it could turn into different things. So being able to really, and it goes back to something I said a little bit ago, having a leader who has the emotional intelligence to really think about and see, wait, this person's maybe disengaged. Why are they disengaged?
Mhm.
Let me have a conversation with
Mhm.
them. Let's open up the dialogue around what is it? Is it something that's happening in the role? Are they not happy? Do they want to do something different? Do they want to be a people leader? Do they not want to be a people leader?
Mhm.
So how do you as a leader have that emotional intelligence and that awareness not only of yourself, but of your team in order to help them grow and develop. Because again, that's part of your responsibility as a leader.
Yeah, absolutely. And I kind of love that we're really putting this back on the leader because that's where the responsibility should be.
Mm-hmm.
Tenice, we told you about our comment section. People go crazy
Yes.
because they say HR is really just out to protect the company, but they're not, not really for you. So if you really want results, I have some questions for you, a little Q&A section. Some of them are leadership focused. Some of them are, from the employee's perspective. So we're going to
Okay.
throw some questions at you and see what
Oh,
you say off the cuff. All right.
okay.
An employee loves their job but hates their boss. They're debating on whether to stay or go. What is the first step that you would recommend to them?
The first step I would actually recommend for them is to do a lot of self-assessment and self-awareness, and really, whether it's journal or just write, think about, why do I not like my job? Why do I not like my boss? Why do we not get along? Why am I trying? I mean, so really that why, digging into and really putting down, why is all this happening? Okay. So really it's first that self-assessment in anything you do. It's, what am I responsible for and what can I control in this particular situation? And then being able to really walk away from that with having an honest evaluation of where things could be different and what you can control about that different. And so with that, then you can go, you know what, based on this, maybe I could change this or that, or these two little, these little tweaks in order to make my role better. I could also, maybe I have a conversation with the leader. Have I really tried to have the conversation? Do I trust? Is there psychological safety, or is that door completely shut? And if the door is shut, I would say then you do go to HR, and that's always my recommendation, because I will tell you, I've spent years in HR and I have many HR colleagues now, especially if you are a high performing individual and you're delivering for our organization, we don't want you to go anywhere.
Yeah.
We want you to be highly engaged where we are. And if you have that relationship then with your HR business partner, then what are my options? What next steps that I have? And then I will say, you should be able to have that conversation. If you're not, who's a leader that you've worked with in the organization that you trust, that you could go, I'm really struggling. I want to grow my career. I'm not happy. I'm not engaged. Here's what I've done to take responsibility for where I can control it, and it's not getting any better, or I haven't seen any progress. Can you help me figure out how to navigate this particular situation? So it doesn't always have to be HR.
Yeah.
Especially in large organizations, there are other peers and colleagues and leaders that you could reach out to.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Love having that
Yeah.
board of directors to be able to
Yes.
lean on for that.
Yes.
Okay, you ready for another one?
Sure.
We're going to go on the leadership side on this one. A leader relies too heavily on Slack or email and avoids hard conversations. How do you coach them towards real communication?
So, as a coach, what I would do is find out what their resistance is. What is their resistance to that face-to-face or in-person conversation? And is it just the fact that that's their style and they go, it's just quicker and easier than having that conversation? What you really have to look at is, you look at your team, and you may look at the team and you go, you know what, Mandy, number one, doesn't care if I ever come talk to her face to face. She's perfectly fine with Slack or email. But Mandy, number two, is going, can we not have a live conversation? And as a leader, you have to know your people in order to know who is going to get energized by that face-to-face conversation, who's going to be motivated by that conversation in order to keep them engaged, and who is going to go, stop interrupting me, just send me an email.
Yeah.
And it really is about knowing your people. Again, we talked about assessments, and like DISC and some of those assessments. Those are ways you know which people, other than you can also just ask them. Assessments can help you know, okay, these are the people on my team who are energized by social interaction, and I'm going to get more out of them if I go have a live conversation. And these are the people who are more data analytical, and they're like, just email me the info and I'm good.
Mhm.
Yep.
Know
I
your
like
people.
that.
Know your people.
It all comes back to relationships. If you don't have
Yes.
them,
Mhm.
that's the ground floor you got to start with. All right, I'm going to ask you
Yes.
one last question, and of course, in true corporate burnout fashions, we're going to bring it back to burnout.
Mhm.
Yeah.
If you have a manager that's noticing a rise in burnout on their team, but senior leadership keeps increasing targets, how, especially in your current role from the leadership coaching, how do you coach them to advocate up the chain?
You know what? You have to be able to manage up. And that's one of the hardest things to do is managing up. But you have to be able to have those conversations. And in order to go up the chain,
Mhm.
you got to bring the data with it. So when you look at it and you go, okay, they've increased the targets to X, you can go with the data that says, because you've increased the targets to X, here's what's happening to the productivity
Mhm.
on my team. We either need our targets adjusted, we need to increase headcount, we need more resource, whatever the solution could be, but coming not only with the data of why it's impeding your team in
Mhm.
delivering the results, but what are a couple of solutions, both low cost or no cost,
Mhm.
and maybe an investment that could make an exponential difference. So if you're going to come and you're going to say, I need to hire another person in order to meet these targets, how is that person's compensation going to offset the targets?
Yeah.
Is it just going to meet those targets? Or by hiring this additional person, is it then going to meet and exceed those particular targets? And so it's really, especially when you're going up to senior leader, how are you going to have the data that's going to support
Yeah.
what your ask is? But again, you have to have the relationships and those transparent conversations in order to be able to make progress.
Yeah, I think
Mhm.
that kind of goes back to bringing a solution to the table versus just a
Mhm.
problem. If you take a problem up, then they're going to be like, this is your job, figure it out. The target is the
Right.
Yeah.
target.
I hired you to solve these
Yeah.
problems.
So
Yeah.
bringing the solution makes a huge difference there.
My this conversation, this question and answer, I'm like, the middle managers are the absolute, like, it's the very hardest leadership point to be in. And we watched it after they kind of switched things up. The job that we applied or interviewed for and didn't get, luckily, we watched the struggle of the people who got it because they were given a team to lead
Manage.
and no power to do anything. So they just had to learn how to be advocates and beat against this brick wall. So they were going to bat for salary. They were going to bat for promotions or for making their markets smaller or bigger, or, like there was so much stuff, and it was impossible. It was an impossible situation as new leaders. Is that something that you really focus on with people, like how to advocate for your team? Because I think that is the number one reason that I'm glad that I didn't get that
Yes,
job.
because it sucks. You have no power to make the change, but you're the one on the ground that can see the real issues.
Mhm.
Yeah. And it goes back to those relationships.
Mhm.
But one of the things that we work with is some cohesive leadership programs, but also some team alignment programs.
Mhm.
And with the programs, we go in and we do some diagnostic that talk about how effectively is the team working together.
Mhm.
And it's the feedback that the team and the leaders are actually giving us. And then we go through and we work on how do we create that team alignment. And that's through working with the team through building trust, communication, addressing conflict. And each time we're together with the team walks away with agreement. How are we going to work more effectively together? How are
Mhm.
we going to be more aligned? And then when they leave, they're able to see this is what we said that it takes. And we all agreed to it. Now we have to hold each other accountable for it.
Mhm.
And then after a series of programs and working with the team, we'll do another diagnostic. What is improved? Have you made any progress? What's working, what's not working, and how do we make sure to get it better? And that's more from the whole team perspective. And then from a leadership perspective, I really work a lot with what I call leadership ROI, and that's your ripples of influence. What are your ripples of influence? How are you affecting those below you, but how are you managing those above you as well? And we go through and do a lot of the self-assessment, the assessment of others, and then building that development plan that's really going to help leaders be more effective because they can see and find their blind spots and put real action plans together in order to be more effective, because that's what it's all about, is how can I be more effective leader? Because, we talked a little bit about the employees being fully engaged with those who matter most. You know what? We want the leaders to be fully engaged
Yeah.
too. We want
So
everybody
goes
to
the
go
leader,
home.
so goes the rest.
Absolutely. We want everybody to go home and enjoy and not bring the stress and frustration of their day home with them.
Yeah. So if you are a middle manager somewhere and you're struggling with this, and it would come out of your own pocket, obviously, but like you can get outside sources for this. You can take classes. And I think whenever we were in corporate, we really only thought about the people within the company that could help us with these things. But I mean, there's so many online classes. There's so many coaches out there that can work with you one-on-one or in group settings and webinars. And it's like, find that stuff outside of your company as well that you can work on your leadership skills and the tips and tricks to
Yeah.
making that more comfortable for you and your team.
Yeah, and I'm going to challenge something you said though, Mandy, is I actually have some language and some coaching that I help leaders go back to their companies and encourage them to invest in their leaders.
Yeah.
So while you say sometimes it may come out of your pocket, one of the things that I work with a lot of times is how can we, because I work with leaders of leaders a lot of times. And so when I'm talking to them, I'm saying, what can we do to help your organization and your leaders be more effective? And how are you going to invest in your leader? It is a multi-billion-dollar business out there for leadership development. The unfortunate part is some of the ROI isn't there.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I do with the leadership ROI, that's your ripples of influence. But through the programs and the coaching, I'm going to show the return on investment, that traditional ROI. So it's in the best interest of the company to invest in their people and develop them in a program that is going to be effective versus just, not giving them the training and development that they need.
I love that, Mandy. Now we're just having a conversation about future episode potential of self-development and where to find it and how to talk your company into paying for it.
And what's so funny is that working with a coach is super self-development. I always think of, taking the classes or going to conferences and things like that, leadership conferences. I always think about that as something you can get your company to pay for. But like, yeah, you could get your company to pay for a one-on-one coach for you too. There's so many things. And I'm so glad that you said that because that does lead into literally, I think our next episode is talking about that. That's incredible. And if you have the verbiage for it, we would love to show people.
Yeah, we would love to share that. Well, if there is anybody out there that is like, oh my gosh, I need to hear more about this leadership ROI, this workshop that you do, or I want to know what else you have to offer. Tenice, can you tell the world how they can find you and what you do have to offer?
Absolutely. So they can find me at wehmeyercoaching.com. So I'll spell it. I'm sure y'all can put
We'll put it in the show notes.
But WEHMEYER coaching.com, and Tenice Wehmeyer on LinkedIn. I have a YouTube channel, and there's a little bit out there, but reaching out to me on my website, wehmeyercoaching.com, there is a link to connect. So if you wanted to connect directly, you can follow me on LinkedIn. But there's probably really a couple of core areas that I kind of specialize in. And it really is both individual leadership development, so helping leaders be more effective.
Mhm.
And one of the things, and you talked about cost a little bit. So I do one on one coaching,
Mhm.
which is going to be a higher investment because it's just
Mhm.
exactly that, it's one on one.
Mhm.
I actually also have this leadership ROI workshop where I can do up to 12 leaders, and
Oh,
it's
cool.
individual coaching as a group
Mhm.
is really what it is. So each person is going through and doing the reflection on
Mhm.
themselves. They're investing in themselves. They're
Mhm.
getting feedback. So we do a
Yeah.
360 as part of it. They're getting the feedback, and then I'm working with the group in order to put together a development plan and action plan. And then it helps with them holding each other accountable. So you can
Yeah.
go into an organization. So when you look at investment, it doesn't always have to be a huge investment. There are
Yeah.
ways that we can co-create programs that will get your organization, the best
Yeah.
solution that you need. And then probably the other one is the team effectiveness. So how are we as a team, because it's not just one on one,
Yeah.
how are we as a team working to deliver the results that we need to? And what does that look like? What are the dynamics of that team look like? And how
Mhm.
can we deliver the results that we're asked to deliver most effectively?
I love it. I hope that you get calls and all kinds of contact forms on that website from this because,
Absolutely.
it's so much stuff. It seems simple, but like when you are in that situation where you're the one wanting to call HR or you are the difficult boss and you don't really realize it, but
Yeah,
the struggles are there, the simple things that you know to be true kind of go out the window. So
yeah.
having a little extra help never hurt nobody.
It's not easy. It is not easy. And yeah, we all need a champion in our corner.
Yeah. This was such a good conversation. We have needed to have
Yeah.
you on for a while because when people are thinking about HR as a whole, we wanted to answer some of those questions.
Mhm.
And we have a lot of leaders who listen to this. We have a lot of employees or people who are job searching as well, but we have a lot of leaders, whether they own their own business or they're in corporate and leadership.
Mhm.
And this is never a bad topic. And even to the employees, they got more insight on just how to
Yeah.
communicate with their bosses. This was just all
Absolutely.
around
I
so
love
good.
that controlling what
Yeah.
you can control and then going
Yeah.
from there.
Hmm.
Huge. Well,
Yep.
thank you for coming on with us, Tenice. We
Yes.
will definitely include all of your good stuff in the show notes so that people know how to find you. And then, of course, if you haven't liked and followed, subscribe to the Corporate Burnouts Podcast. Please
Mhm.
do. We will
Yep.
see you all soon. Thank you.
Bye.
Absolutely. Take care. Thanks.
Bye.